Hi everybody and welcome to my channel. I'm baking Nicky and today I'm going to share with you my recipe for Speculoos cookies. They have different names around the world, but it's essentially a spiced biscuit. It's got a nice crisp to it and it has beautiful spices, of course, and flavors coming from dark brown sugar, which I have right here. I'm using cloves and cinnamon also as my main spices. So it's quite simple. You need only the ingredients I just showed on the screen. So let's get started. First, I like to mix the dry ingredients and set that aside while I prepare the rest. So quite simple. You don't need to sift the flour really, unless you live in a very humid environment. Now onto the main base. This is going to be a regular cookie. So we start off with unsalted butter. You know the drill. It should be room temperature, so soft enough that you can beat it with a regular spatula, although you can use your mixing machine if you like. I like doing most of my cookies by hand, especially around the holiday season. You get a real feel for the texture. That's really why I do this. So right, now that you have your butter really nice and soft, you can add sugar. And you might have noticed that I'm not using granulated sugar or any white sugar really. I like that all of the flavor will come just from the brown sugar. So we mix it up, we cream it together, and this is the consistency. It smells wonderful already. But now we're gonna add those dry ingredients that we pre-mixed. And this is where it gets really fun. As usual with cookies, you want to get a feel for the texture, so you start slow and steady. So I add some of the dry ingredients and I just incorporate them without mixing too much. So once it starts to come together like this, it's time to add a little bit of water. So I have a guideline in the written recipe and you should not take that as the exact amount because it will depend on the environment that you're in, whether you need all of the water or less or even more. So I'm turning this over onto my counter so I can knead it and get a feel of the texture. I don't want it to be too crumbly, but I also don't want it to be too sticky. So the second it's coming together without seeing too many cracks, then I know it's good to go. And I'm just gonna shape it a little bit into a round disc and cover it with some film because it's gonna sit in my refrigerator for about an hour so that it firms up and it's much easier to roll this way. Now, for the rolling part, this is not quite what you would do with a normal cookie. You can roll this out a little bit or you can just use chunks of the dough directly because of the mold that I'm showing you right here. It's not necessary that you roll out the dough, but if you want to just make some cookie cutouts from it, then you do have to roll it as you would a normal cookie dough. But as you can see here, I'm just shaping it with my hands just to get a nice and even piece that sort of fits into this form that I have here, this stamp. And then I just trim off the edges. It's so forgiving that you can just patch it up in case you need to. I use my rolling pin just to make sure it really gets into every single crook and cranny. And I just remove with the back of a knife because I don't want to damage the mold. I remove the excess as much as I can. And that is basically it. I do go over basically the outline of the cookie with my fingers ever so slightly, just to make sure it doesn't have anything to stick on before I release it. And for releasing, that's kind of my favorite part. Just need to be a bit confident and tap it out. Now, for this to work properly, you do have to make sure that the stamp is well floured, and you can see that I have a lot of excess flour on the front side, which you can just brush off with any brush. And these are my cookies. They look lovely and they're gonna hold their shape super well in the oven as they bake. So this is gonna go into a 180 oven, 180 Celsius that is, 350 Fahrenheit. And you want to bake them for about 12 minutes. You want them to be a little bit golden brown on the edges, but not too much because then they get a little bit hard. This cookie is delicious. It goes super well with your coffee or tea, and it's a perfect holiday cookie as well. I hope you enjoyed this recipe, and I hope you enjoy your holiday baking. Let me know if you want to see more of these recipes. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.